In the words of the legendary chef and my personal hero, Anthony Bourdain, food is everything we are. It's an extension of a nationalist feeling, ethnic feeling, your personal history, your province, your region, your tribe, your grandma. It's inseparable from those from the get-go. Welcome to Every Dish a Story, a podcast about a place of food in our lives and what it meant to our ancestors. I'm your host, Kat, and I'm going to take you to a new location every 2 weeks to connect to who we are. Okay, right from the start, I'm going to fangirl a little bit and use a quote by Anthony Bourdain. He said that barbecue may not be a road to world peace, but it's a start. Welcome to Every Dish a Story, Episode 4. I'm your host, Kat, and today we're heading to the American South. There are several ways to use barbecue sauce, from marinating meat in it before grilling to basting it on top of grilled chicken breasts and ribs. It's a common condiment in the South, where it's put on just about everything. Most recipes call for vinegar, tomato paste, or mayonnaise as a base, with additional ingredients such as liquid smoke, onion powder, and seasonings like mustard and black pepper. Barbecue sauce can be traced back to the founding of the first American colonies in the 17th century. Over the next 200 years, references to the sauce appear in both English and French literature. The origins of South Carolina mustard sauce can be traced back to the 18th century German settlers. In the beginning, most homemade barbecue sauces consisted solely of vinegar, salt, and pepper. In the 1920s, sugar, ketchup, and Worcestershire sauce were first employed. But after World War II, the amount of sugar and the number of ingredients utilized skyrocketed. In 1909, the Georgia Barbecue Sauce Company of Atlanta promoted an early commercially made barbecue sauce. In the 1940s, Heinz was the first large corporation to produce bottled barbecue sauce. General Foods introduced open pit not long after. Kraft Foods only entered the market in the 1960s, but with a lot of advertising, they were able to overtake the competition and become the market leader. Kraft also began producing cooking oils with spice bags attached, offering a new market for barbecue sauce. The whole phenomenon and the culture of barbecue is a wonderful illustration of how three separate food cultures in very difficult times in the American history came together to create a meal that has become an institution in the South. How did the Southern pork barbecue become so popular? Well, during European discovery of the Americas in the 1500s, Southeast indigenous tribes were observed cooking meat on slotted wooden platforms situated high above a heat source. Europeans were so enthralled by these inventions that they sent sketches back over the Atlantic and carved them into widely shared booklets to let the public know about them. The name barbecue comes from the southeastern indigenous word for grilled smoked meat. So the native tribes provide the method of cooking, and then the Europeans introduced pig to the region, which is why modern barbecue is so strongly associated with it. In 1539, Hernando de Soto brought pigs to the continent for the first time during his tour of what would become the Southeast United States. De Soto took excellent care of the animals, and when he died in 1542 near the Mississippi River, he left behind about 700 of them. Cooking a pig shoulder in a way that Southeast natives did wasn't difficult for the Europeans after they transferred their practice to Europe. The final ingredient in the Southern hog barbecue was contributed by Africans. A large number of Africans were enslaved and forced to migrate to the New World as part of the transatlantic slave trade. The spicy, fire, and acidic components found in the African savory cosmopolitan cuisine were numerous. The flavors we associate with the Southern cooking today are a direct result of the region's attempts to replicate exotic flavors using what it had access to. The handwritten cookbook of Edith Lockdown Danielson Howard, which is available in the Culinary Library in Providence, contains the first ever documented recipe for barbecue sauce. While it's conceivable that the recipe was written in the 1900s, it's quite unlikely because Procter & Gamble created the first tomato sauce recipe in 1911. And because barbecue's key ingredient, tomato sauce, couldn't be created until the first decade of the 20th century, the recipe's initial publication date is probably somewhere between 1912 and 1913. There are several barbecue sauces that are distinguished by their origin and their components. There are sauces that are based on ketchup and tomatoes, such as Memphis-style barbecue sauce. There are also vinegar-based sauces from eastern North Carolina, mustard-based sauces like in South Carolina, and also a mayonnaise-based sauce from Alabama. Now we're going to be talking about 4 different regional sauces today, and there are several barbecue sauces that are easily distinguished by their origins and components. There are sauces that are based on ketchup and tomatoes, such as Kansas City or Memphis style that we're looking at today. There are also vinegar-based sauces from eastern North Carolina, and a mustard-based sauce found in South Carolina. And there's also a mayonnaise-based sauce from Alabama. We're going to kick off things with Texas. During the mid-19th century, German and Czech immigrants brought European meat smoking practices to central Texas. Butchers used to smoke any unsold meat to keep it fresh for longer periods before it went bad. Many meat outlets began to specialize in smoked meats as these leftovers grew popular among the migrants in the area. And because Texas enjoys being unique, it makes sense that it would have its own distinctive spicy barbecue heritage. Mop sauce, or basting sauce, which is used to prepare Texas meaty barbecue, gets its name from the fact that it's actually slathered on with a mop. In his book, The Barbecue Bible, Stephen Reichland says sauces are more like a thin glaze that adds flavor and moisture to the food when grilling. Sauces from Up and Up contain ingredients such as beef stock, vinegar and Worcestershire sauce, as well as seasonings such as salt, pepper, and minced garlic. There aren't many sauces or side dishes served with this type of barbecue to go with the main course of meat. Meat reigns supreme in Texas. You'll know you're eating Texas barbecue when your platters are loaded high with ribs, brisket, and sausage. Typically, this form of barbecue relies on a simple salt and pepper rub, which means that the wood is responsible for the majority of the smoky and meaty flavor you'll notice in the barbecue. The traditional slow and low method of cooking the beef over oak or pecan wood for upwards of 12 hours or longer is maintained in the Texas tradition. The signature dish of this barbecue style is succulent smoked brisket and sausage, served with a side of beans and cornbread. I absolutely love the Texas-style barbecue sauce, and I always wanted to try my hand at cooking a brisket, so I am definitely going back to this one. Now, our next stop is the Carolinas. There are two camps in this style, North Carolina and South Carolina. Pork is preferred as the primary meat by supporters of both kinds. The pork is frequently sprayed with a spice and vinegar mop as it cooks in North Carolina, according to the recipe. After that, it's divided into portions and served with a ketchup-based sauce on the side. South Carolina style also includes elements of mustard, which can be found in either the rub or the sauce, because mustard spice is the key cash crop in the state. The trademark dish of these barbecue styles is pork shoulder, which is served with hush puppies, green beans, and coleslaw. North Carolina is famous for their vinegar sauce. African flavors, which were spicy and acidic, were quickly embraced by the people of eastern North Carolina. As the mother of all American barbecue sauces, as it's sometimes referred to, it may be traced back several centuries to the state of North Carolina, where whole hog barbecue is the de facto national dish. As the mother of all American barbecue sauces, as it's sometimes referred to, it may be traced back several centuries to the state of North Carolina, where whole hog barbecue is the de facto national dish. But instead of tomato, the Eastern-style sauce relies on the tart combination of vinegar and added spices such as cayenne pepper, black pepper, crushed red pepper, hot sauce, salt, and occasionally water. The sauce is typically served with grilled chicken or fish,